Hello, listeners, and welcome to Shattering Superstructure, a podcast that breaks through the majority opinion and mainstream culture. I'm your host, Alex Arabian, a journalist who explores the value of art for the sake of art. In these interviews, in which I'll have occasional co-hosts, there will be no scoops, no juicy bits, and no hidden agendas, just a safe space in which one can think as one wishes and say what one thinks. And on that note, let's get to the episode. Thank you for listening. Hey listeners, back with another episode. This time we have Jack Kilmer, and he is promoting his latest film, Detective Night Independence, which is the third film in the trilogy, starring Bruce Willis. And in this film, Jack plays Desi, a paramedic turned vigilante. And it's a pretty gritty action film. And it really explores the balance between more or less a superhero character and the fine line between criminals, the law, and vigilantism, which is super exciting. Jack also discusses his filmography, from Palo Alto to the Stanford Prison Experiment, to The Nice Guys, to starring in music videos and acting in shorts. And he also talks about Willow, which I think is a really special role for him because he's filling his father Val's shoes and playing Madmartigan. He voices the character in 2 episodes, and it's a really beautiful tribute as well as a great voice role. And he also briefly discussed his upcoming film, The Thrill Is On, one of 2 B.B. King films being made right now, and he heavily implied that he will be playing his own drums, which is pretty special. So we can expect some great music in that film, and some authenticity, which is always appreciated and which I always love. It was great speaking with Jack, and without further ado, here's the episode. Thanks, listeners. Hey, Jack, how are you?
Hey Alex, how you doing, man?
You know, the one thing about the Detective Night trilogy is I noticed it had a really unique distribution strategy, and they all sort
Yeah.
of came out within a year of each other. Do you know if they were shot concurrently?
So yeah, the distribution strategy was remarkable to me. I know Lionsgate is involved, and it's sort of a subsidiary of Lionsgate, a branch of Lionsgate, and the director Edward Drake is he's done a bunch of this trilogy or the series. He's done like 3 or 4 of these movies, and yeah, I couldn't quite track like the shooting schedule that they were on, but I know they had been shooting quite a lot over the years, and the way, we shot this movie in 8 days, which is
Wow.
the fastest I've ever shot a feature film, and I really can't stress it enough, like how remarkable Ed is at editing and shooting these movies, because it seriously, they gave him 8 days to shoot this entire thing, and maybe 3 or 4 days on the back end for reshoots and stuff, like. But
Wow.
yeah, just amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, that is a super fast shoot. I mean, I thought, you know, looking back at your films, I thought Stanford Prison Experiment was fast, and that was like what, 3 weeks over?
Yeah, something like that. That seemed like a longer time because I was a lot younger, but
Right.
um, yeah.
So what drew you to the script initially for this one?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, Bruce Willis.
Yeah.
Um, Second of all, I was on my way home. I was in New York shooting, yeah, like Law and Order. I was shooting Law and Order, and I was
No.
on my way home, and I got a call like, "Do you want to do this movie?" And I read the script on the plane, and I rerouted my plane to New Mexico to shoot this movie, and yeah, and then I talked to everyone on set, and they were like, "This character's kind of like the Joker," and that really inspired me. And then and and then yeah, working with Ed, he kind of gave me a lot of liberties as to what to do with the character. So I just started having fun, and then having Bruce Willis on set, everyone's energy gets pumped up. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's
I
just
bet.
yeah,
Yeah, and speaking of Bruce, I mean, you've worked with some phenomenal actors, and Bruce Willis is right up there. It's just, I mean, he's, one of the all-timers.
all time. Yeah.
And he recently retired from acting. And did you learn anything new as an actor and as a person from him, whether it was directly, uh, from advice or just indirectly from just watching him and being around him?
Right. And I think what I learned from Bruce is that it's all in you. He walks on set and he with doing very little
Yeah.
with him with doing very little, he is the guy. And he has a lot of power with very expressing very little, and that's big, that's massive for any actor. And he's just at the level of acting where he doesn't have he I don't know where it comes from, but he could say what any line that he says is going to hit and it's going to land and it's going to push through the camera and into the audience. And and yeah, it's a reason why he's a legend, because he just has this kind of like awesome power to him. And yeah.
Yeah, he's got that naturalism is what I'm looking for as an actor, just that just sort of
Right.
comes out.
Right. And I say he's doing very little, but that's not true. He's doing a lot, but it just doesn't, I think it manifests itself where it should, which is in him. And it's not like he's not doing a bunch of bravado he doesn't need to do that because he's so cool. He's like,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. And to your point of like a Joker-esque character, I mean, you play a paramedic turned, vigilante, and I think it really explores the fine line between like law, criminal, and vigilante that so many hero films in the superhero genre, which this isn't a superhero movie, but in other genres fail to do. And is that something that you discussed with Edward Drake? Um, I know Joker was a film that really did that well, but there's a lot of films that just don't quite balance that line.
yeah. Well, I think Ed was really excited to shoot this because, and so was I, because it stands out in this series of films because it's quite a real character, unfortunately, in this day and age. Like that guy, is in the news all the time
Right.
these days. And so when we were talking about this movie, we are like, yeah, we started at superhero
Yeah.
and then we took that and we were like, wait, we could actually do something that's quite gritty and real with this character, because unfortunately it's a really crazy time in our country, and it's like, there are a lot of these kind of outbursts and events that are just the norm now, that we just live with. And so it's like, but we saw an opportunity to kind of make something kind of like real, and like Taxi Driver or something like that. Or like Bad Lieutenant. We were like, let's do like let's make a good movie. Let's not, just because it's an action movie and we have a literal superhero as Bruce Willis, doesn't mean it can't be like an awesome gritty movie.
Right. Hell yeah. I love that. Um, and looking back, I first saw you in Palo Alto. I think they were first showing it in San Francisco, and I was at a screening with Gia Coppola and Emma Roberts in an interview where she was saying that you originally, wanted to pursue a career in music, and that's kind of how she casted you in that film, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that that's that's fascinating. It's interesting because Nat Wolff also, who's in that movie, has a background in music, and Gia seems to want to work with people who kind of bridge those mediums, like Maya Hawke and mainstream. And
Hmm.
so, what was the sort of casting process like? Was she like originally a fan of, or had she heard your music, or did she just say, "Hey, let's get you on board this film. I want to cast musicians."
Right. I mean, well, I had known her growing up in LA, and our parents are super close, and um, I think, yeah, to speak to what you were saying about being a musician, and I think everyone in LA is like trying to do something cool, or has some interesting project going on. And for us at the time, it was just important to be around people that we really vibed with on a creative level, and like have a lot of integrity for some reason.
Yeah,
Because it was, whether it was something we wanted to prove to people or whatever. But yeah, I remember like back then it was so important to us that we had our like real friends around, and we were making stuff that we really like got down with, and could like put out to the world. And yeah, and I think at the time we were probably hanging out with musicians and weird hipster people, and that's why that movie looks like that. Um, and then, later she went in to do mainstream, and like that looks that kind of looks like her life around that period, I guess.
yeah,
With some liberties here and there, but
sure, sure. And I think it was, what was the experience like being on, like, acting with your father for the first time, as opposed to seeing, another side of him for most of your life?
I'll tell you the story with that. So um, I didn't know that he was going to be in that movie, and then he, it was like a surprise for me, and I wasn't in that scene that he did.
Right.
Um, but basically, he was coming into town, and I think he was living in New Mexico at the time, and he used to do this like where he would like, I would be in school, and he would just kind of pop in my classroom or something, and like take me out of class, or like. And so he kind of did that with this movie, where we were on set, and then all of a sudden he was there, and he was like playing this crazy character, and they were like, yeah, let's shoot it. And I was like, oh my God, I was so embarrassed. But I think it's a really funny scene in the movie. I'm really glad it happened now, but
Oh man, that's
it's
funny.
definitely a surprise. Yeah.
um And so I think, I always look for like connections. The Stanford prison experiment also has a connection to Palo Alto. The Palo Alto Police Department assisted in the arrests of the quote unquote prisoners in the actual Stanford prison experiment. And
No way.
so, yeah, that's
That's
crazy.
awesome, dude. Yeah,
Yeah. Um,
that's
and like,
hilarious.
yeah, I mean, I grew up right around there in San Mateo too, so it's like, yeah, this
Okay.
is another degree. So I'm familiar with the area, Palo Alto, and but it's like, I read that it was shot over 3 weeks, which is not much longer than the, how long the experiment actually lasted. But you said it seemed a lot longer. I mean, is that because of the intensity, a combination of you being younger and the intensity of the subject matter in the scenes? Because, it definitely, how did
Yeah,
you
well,
create that?
this was like the second movie I'd ever done, and we shot in the stage in Burbank, and it was like at the time it was like all-star cast of all of like the cool, like the hottest like young actors that were like male actors that were around,
Okay.
and we were all in this prison. They'd made a prison for us, and they'd given us burlap sacks to wear, and everyone. I mean, it was such good vibe. It was so fun. It was like, you know, like the most fun you could have with your guy friends of all time. But it was also like, it was crazy. Like after, like, we'd be in there for 8 hours with this artificial light, and I have seen some stuff that, I've seen Ty Sheridan in lights that most people will never see him. And the pranks on set were all time. So
There you go. Yeah, I bet. And yeah, that's awesome. And got some great older actors in that too. Billy Crudup, right? And
dude, yes, Billy.
Billy.
So good, dude. Oh
Yeah.
my God. He was great.
Yeah, he played my cousin actually, Steve Prefontaine in Without Limits. It's crazy that he looks just like, I only see him as Prefontaine.
Yeah.
It's hard to not see him like that, but he's such a good actor and seems like a good
Yeah. He's so good, and I'm so glad that he's getting like all the recognition now, because he was the guy, like back then when we shot that movie, he was kind of the guy that was like the actor's actor who had been he's like in everything, but you know now he's just become like he's just unstoppable, and he's like mega star now. And
Hell yeah.
but we all like respected him a lot when he was around. And, like, yeah.
That's a great way to put it. Actor's actor. Yeah, I like that. Um, and you were great in The Nice Guys. I love that. Um, and Shane Black, he directed your father as well in Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. I mean, there's so
Yeah,
many.
yeah.
Were you able to get any stories out of Shane from that set? Because that was a great. They're both great films, but I would imagine there were some hijinks as well on Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. Some pranks.
Totally. I mean, my dad will tell anyone that Kiss Kiss Bang Bang was the most fun that he's ever had on set. And you know, I think a lot of that movie took place outside of the camera, because it was like they would just crack each other up. And um I remember like being on set for that movie, and it was just like a good time for my dad. It was like he would really look forward to go to work every day, and was really excited about down Robert Downey. And um but yes, Shane, I mean, I would try to get in. I would like he would like say stuff like he'd be like, "Oh yeah, we used to fly helicopters through downtown LA or whatever." And I'd be like, "What?" Like, or like he's but he would say stuff like that, but then he is also just he's like from another era of Hollywood that's like really like extravagant, and like you go to his house and it really is like you're like, I'm at Shane Black's house. Like this is insane. Like he's got a teepee in his living room, or he not sorry, shouldn't say that, but he has like yeah, he is like a big Hollywood director. That's what he's like.
That's awesome.
And but he's a really sweet, nice guy.
Yeah.
And he's like he took a lot of time with me with that role, even though he didn't have to. And now I get older, I'm like, oh, there's no time for any of that stuff. But he would like ease me, and he was just really cool. I'd show up, and he would just be like, it was like another day. He would just be like, yeah, like, let's walk around, and yeah, let's shoot it. And it's like he's just very cool. Yeah,
Kind of director that also just puts you at ease right away, right? Yeah.
totally,
Sounds like.
totally. And he had like there was like three different units shooting at the same time, and he would act. He was so chill. He would never know. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, he's been there before. So it's like
Mhm.
just another day.
Yeah.
Um, and you act in music videos too. You act in shorts still, which I love, which tells me you like to do this for the sake of art itself. For the passion of the vision of the project, separate from budget or whatever, which, a lot of people don't necessarily do in this industry. So yeah, and I love that. Can you speak a little to that point?
Yeah, I think like I there was a couple years where I really tried. I really tried to be one of those guys who just, is just a career guy who is in the biggest stuff and is, you know, really picky about budgets and shoots that they do. But I just was so unhappy doing that and unsuccessful doing that I realized I was like, there's no difference between the stuff that I create, like with my friends or just alone at home, and then the Shane Black shoots. Like for me, it's like we're trying to figure this thing out, and I so grateful if there's any budget and if there's any kind of like backing for any of this stuff. But for me, it's really important to always remember that this stuff like doesn't make itself, and you have to like it kind of it's nothing without the work that you do in your head or on paper. And yeah, and it's kind of liberating to me to like think to remember that like even on the biggest shoots, most legendary shoots, it's like it's it's just like you're 18 and like trying to do a film with your friends or something. It's like it's the same thing. It doesn't change because you're with Ryan Gosling or whatever. It's like
Yeah.
it's just like on the even the top highest level, it's just a bunch of people being like, we want to do something and let's make it happen, and let's do the best we can, and see what happens. Like um and that's how I try to think about it. I mean, I just try to really be grateful for any kind of like anything like any help I can get with this stuff and like
Right.
um but yeah, I mean, it's just the way I tend to I attract cool projects when I'm super open and creative and happy, and apart from like family connections and stuff, like that's how all the project I do all these projects is that I meet people and we get excited about doing something, and so I kind of just try to keep it there because yeah, otherwise it's just like I don't really know why I'm doing it.
Right. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. And do you still make music. Forgive me if I'm not familiar with that. I basically listen to this. I've listened to the same 10 artists since I was like for the last like 10 years, so I'm not really in the loop.
Nice. Oh, totally. Yeah. No, I haven't put anything out in like 10 years or something, but
Okay.
yeah, I'm always doing projects with friends, and yeah, it's pretty indie. It's pretty like underground for me at this point, but I I think you could expect a release in the next year or two, because I've been working like getting in the studio a little bit, and yeah, like on my time off, I'm pretty much just doing that now, which it feels really, it's so good to get back. Like after the pandemic and everything, it's like everything's getting, there's a little bit of a scene again, and get able to connect with other people. And I mean, I'll always do it. So, you know,
Yeah,
um, best. Yeah.
that's awesome. Yeah, I can imagine that it's nice to get
What,
back to that.
what are
But
the 10 artists that you, or what?
I mean, man, it'd be tough to name them right now, but like, The Roots,
Nice. Yeah. That's cool.
Elliott Smith,
Yes.
the Chili Peppers,
Mhm.
and just a few others. But
Easy. Yeah. Those are major. Yeah.
along those lines and genres. But yeah, it's um it's fascinating because actually, your father gave me my first interview, I think, ever. I wrote a
Oh,
review on
what?
my like, yeah, yeah. I wrote a review on my little blog of Cinema Twain, and he liked it, and I think his publicist asked if he could share it on his Facebook, and then one thing led to another, and he gave me an interview uh for the for Cinema Twain, and it was pretty awesome because that opened up a lot of doors for me as a journalist. So
Nice. Okay. Yeah.
it's nice to go like uh full circle here. And speaking of, I saw Willow. I watched the whole series, and you get to play Madmartigan, which
Right.
is amazing. Uh, how did that feel? I spoke with John Kasdan about it.
Yeah.
He said, he did consider you for um, the role of Madmartigan's son, but he had something far more special planned for you. So,
Yeah.
yeah, what was it
Well,
like
yeah.
stepping into those shoes?
So John Kasdan is the best, and he's kind of, yeah, got me to do it somehow. But we had been talking about me getting, like, finding a way that I could get involved with Willow, the TV show, and he's very like, it's very important to him, or he's such a sweet guy. He's such a cool guy that it's like, it's very, he thinks about everything, and he, like, the way his mind works, he's really like, you could sit down with him and talk about Madmartigan for hours. Like he genuinely will have so many ideas about who the guy is and what he's about. And so even before, like, when he was in like the writing process, he was talking to my dad and me and my mom, and like about Willow, and just he was just fascinated, and like, and but he had, my mom and my dad both had a great experience working with him. And then we were emailing for a while about it, and I would just like, he'd send me some stuff, and I was just so excited. Like, I mean, obviously, yeah, it's great for my dad, but my mom, just to see my mom in like, be like a princess and kick ass like that was so amazing. And then yeah, he kind of just put it to me. He's like, we just need help with this. We need to get these line, like, this ADR for your dad. And
Yeah, yeah,
I'd done that already on this documentary that we did with him. And they were just like, what, he was kind of like, I just don't know what to do with the audio. and he's like, "Why don't you come give a crack at it?" And I did, and then um, yeah, and then we just hung out and talked about Willow, and yeah, I got to go down to like whatever that Warner Brothers or something. It's like and see those guys like edit in the editing room,
That's
but yeah, I don't know. It was cool. I kind of just did it as like a favor to my dad because he couldn't be there. So
I want to thank you for your time. And I guess real quick going forward, you're going to be starring in The Thrill Is On, right? The BB King film. Are you going to be playing your own drums? Are you expected to? You know,
well,
learn.
you'll have to wait and see. But we do have some, you know, we uh we like to keep it real with the musicians, as you know. So
Right.
it's nothing. Expect nothing less than a real good playing. So
Okay.
yeah.
Authenticity. I like it. Thanks so much for your time, Jack. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Alex. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah. Take care.
And that's a wrap on Jack Kilmer with Shattering Superstructure. I hope you enjoyed it, and please go see Detective Night Independence, available on all major streaming platforms. And don't forget to revisit Jack's awesome filmography. And looking forward, keep an eye out for updates on The Thrill Is On. So thanks again for listening, and shall see you next time on Shattering Superstructure. This is Alex signing off.